Imagine waking up one morning and realizing the global economy has stopped. Banks are collapsing, people can't withdraw their savings, and your house, the one you thought was your safest investment, is suddenly worth half as much. Sounds like a dystopian movie, right? But this actually happened in 2008. The world's financial system came within inches of total collapse, and most people still don't understand how close we came to losing everything. What began as the American dream of home ownership turned into one of the biggest economic disasters in modern history. It started with low interest rates, easy loans, and an unshakable belief that housing prices could only go up. Banks were handing out mortgages to anyone with a pulse because Wall Street had found a way to turn those loans into gold. They bundled thousands of mortgages together and sold them as mortgage-backed securities, financial products so complex that even the people selling them barely understood the risks. In reality, they were bombs waiting to explode. Investors from around the world bought them, betting on the stability of American housing. But when millions of homeowners began defaulting on their loans, the entire system unraveled. The so-called safe assets became worthless overnight. Banks that had existed for over a century vanished within days. Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, Washington Mutual, gone. Businesses couldn't borrow. The global economy was on its knees. They printed money on a scale humanity had never seen before, calling it quantitative easing. Trillions of dollars were pumped into the system to keep it alive. It worked, temporarily. The bleeding stopped, but the patient was changed forever. Money lost its meaning. Interest rates dropped to nearly zero, making it cheap. That cheap money inflated everything. Stocks, real estate, even cryptocurrency. The same system that had just collapsed was being rebuilt on the exact same foundation, debt and speculation. The 2008 crisis didn't just crash markets, it rewired how money works. It taught governments that printing solves panic. It taught investors that risk always gets bailed out. But behind every graph and bailout headline were real people losing everything. Families forced out of homes, workers laid off overnight, and retirees watching their savings vanish. The emotional damage was just as real as the financial one. Out of that chaos, something unexpected emerged, a new kind of rebellion against the system itself. In 2009, as banks were being rescued, an anonymous developer named Satoshi Nakamoto released Bitcoin, a currency designed to exist outside the reach of banks and governments. It wasn't just code, it was a statement. Bitcoin was born out of the ashes of the 2008 crisis, a direct response to the broken trust in traditional finance. And in a way, that collapse didn't just destroy wealth, it sparked a financial revolution. It made people question what money truly is, who controls it, and whether the system can ever be fair. 15 years later, we're still living with the consequences of 2008. Every inflation spike, every asset bubble, every crypto boom traces its DNA back to those decisions made in panic. We never really fixed the problem, we just postponed it. Each new crisis is built on the debts of the last one. The truth is, the financial system didn't learn humility from 2008. It learned how far it can go before being rescued. And that's the most dangerous lesson of all, because every bailout rewards recklessness and punishes responsibility. The 2008 crash wasn't a fluke. It was the natural outcome of a system built on greed, leverage, and denial. And even though the players and technology have changed, the incentives haven't. The next collapse won't look the same, but it'll rhyme. It might come from over-leveraged tech, global debt, or artificial intelligence disrupting markets faster than we can react. But one thing's for sure, history doesn't repeat, it compounds. Every crisis builds on the mistakes of the last one. The 2008 financial meltdown didn't just end an era, it began one. The age of printed money, fragile confidence, and economies addicted to cheap debt. So the next time markets crash and everyone panics, remember this: we've been here before. The system always survives, but every time it costs us a little more to save it.